In episode 6 of The Glory, Yeo-young meets with his mother for lunch and informs her that he has decided to resign from his job and open his own practice in Semyeong, where the girl he likes lives. Meanwhile, Yeonjin and her mother visit a shaman in an effort to resolve the issue with Dong-eun. Yeonjin's mother suggests contacting someone at the Ministry of Education to get Dong-eun fired, but Yeonjin is afraid that this will only provoke Dong-eun and lead to Yeonjin's own secrets being revealed. Yeonjin's mother advises her to find a solution in the present rather than dwelling on the past. Meanwhile, Dong-eun receives an urgent message from Hyun-nam asking her to call as soon as possible. When they meet, Hyun-nam expresses concern about being unable to find Myung-oh and fears he may have switched sides. Dong-eun suggests that it's also possible that he may be dead, but Hyun-nam asks Dong-eun if she was the one who killed him, stating that she wants to be prepared to protect Dong-eun if needed. Dong-eun tells Hyun-nam that even if she did kill Myung-oh, Hyun-nam doesn't need to know. Dong-eun warns Hyun-nam that they are getting too close and reminds her that they should only stick to their contract. Jae-jun returns home after being away for a while and discovers that Myung-oh has stolen all of his luxury clothes and watches. He tries calling Myung-oh, but there is no answer. Yeonjin meets with the police chief to ask for help finding someone's private information, but he tells her it is not an easy task. Yeonjin receives a call from Jae-jun but ignores it. Meanwhile, Dong-eun asks Gu Sung-hee for help in finding out if Myung-oh left the country as planned, but they learn that he never left. Dong-eun decides to target Do-young in her plan. Do-young finishes a project creating a large-scale Go board game on a rooftop, unaware of Dong-eun's plans. Sa-ra is having trouble getting drugs from Myung-oh, who is not responding to her messages. Hae-jong is also searching for Myung-oh after receiving a letter from him threatening to expose her secrets. Hae-jong is about to get married to a chaebol and wants to make sure Myung-oh doesn't ruin it. While going about her day, Dong-eun receives a call from Hyun-nam who tells her that there is a car following her. Dong-eun is surprised and initially assumes that Hyun-nam is the one following her, but Hyun-nam explains that she was actually tailing Jae-jun, who was at the school when she saw the people following Dong-eun. Dong-eun gets into a minor accident with the men in the car and agrees to pay for the damages in cash. The driver asks for Dong-eun's phone number and tells her to meet him with the cash when he calls her. After the incident, Dong-eun meets with Hyun-nam and apologizes for not trusting her. Jae-jun asks Hae-jong if she knows Hae-sol's birthday, saying he believes he is her biological father. Hae-jong thinks Jae-jun is crazy and suggests that Yeonjin may be sleeping with other men besides him. Do-young receives a letter from Myung-oh and goes to Jae-jun's golf club to ask where he can find Myung-oh. Jae-jun tells Do-young that he also received a letter from Myung-oh threatening him. They exchange contact information and agree to let each other know if they find Myung-oh. During their conversation, Do-young notices that Jae-jun smokes the same brand of cigarettes as his wife. After their interaction, Jae-jun leaves a message from Myung-oh on his phone threatening to kill him if Hae-sol's true identity is the motive behind his threats. After getting the results of a DNA test, Jae-jun learns that Hae-sol is his biological daughter. Meanwhile, Yeo-young moves to Semyeong and rents a house. He texts Dong-eun, mentioning that they never properly finished their Go match. At the time, Dong-eun is at a mechanic shop getting her car fixed and is reminded of being burned when she sees people cooking pork on a pan. She has an anxiety attack and decides to visit Yeo-young to tell him about her plans for revenge. Initially worried about the impact of the revenge, Yeo-young changes his mind and offers to help Dong-eun by joining her in the hunt and serving as her executioner when he sees her scars. 7 of The Glory, Yeo-young finishes preparing for his new clinic and remembers the conversation he had with Dong-eun about her interest in Do-young and her desire to make sure Yeonjin is alone by the time she finishes her revenge. Yeo-young gives Dong-eun the passcode to his apartment and asks her to visit and leave a move on the Go board when she wants to let him know she is okay. Do-young looks through old photos and asks Yeonjin about her relationship with Jae-jun and Myung-oh. Yeonjin says she is not close with Myung-oh and asks if he was being threatened. Do-young finds Yeonjin's response suspicious and mentions that all her friends had the same response when he brought up Myung-oh. Yeonjin checks the locations Myung-oh recently visited and sees that he went to Jae-jun's golf club. Hyun-nam continues her investigation and visits the shaman Yeonjin and her mother usually go to, but doesn't find any important information. She later helps Dong-eun find out that the men who were following her and trying to extort money work for the police chief, who is close to Yeonjin's family. Dong-eun starts to wonder if they are connected to Myung-oh's disappearance and tells Hyun-nam that it would be in their best interest to find his body first if he is truly dead. Dong-eun remembers her deal with Myung-oh, who was supposed to get a confession from Yeonjin about killing So-hee. Dong-eun believes that Yeonjin may have killed Myung-oh after he threatened to reveal that she is So-hee's murderer. Yeo-young's mother is left to handle the daily operations at the hospital after Yeo-young leaves, and is shocked to receive a letter from the man who killed her husband. The man is currently in prison and has been sending Yeo-young letters taunting him about how much he enjoyed killing his father. Yeo-young still carries a lot of pain and anger over his father's death and occasionally imagines himself killing the killer. Yeo-young had been going to therapy for this, but stops after moving to Semyeong. Dong-eun meets with Sa-are at her father's church to collect the money she demanded. Sa-are tells Dong-eun that she has God on her side because she has repented, but Dong-eun mocks her and says she hopes Sa-are goes to heaven because she will make her life a living hell. Dong-eun takes Hyun-nam to take an assessment test and tells her that she plans to use the money from Sa-are to send Hyun-nam to study in the US, as she can no longer tutor her. Do-young learns from Hae-sol that Yeonjin went to high school with her teacher, and becomes more curious to find out more about the teacher. He promises Hae-sol that he will attend the Daddy's event coming up in her class. Jae-jun is also curious about Do-young and tries to gather information from Hae-jong during her wedding dress fitting. Hae-jong tells him that he is a nice son of a bitch and you need to look closely to know him. Hae-jong is also worried about the damaging photos she received from Myung-oh and decides to check his apartment, where she runs into Sa-are who had the same idea. Sa-are finds her drugs, but Hae-jong doesn't get any answers. Sa-are shows her a plane ticket and tells her that Myung-oh planned to leave, but he is now missing. They report this information to Yeonjin, who advises them to report the matter to the police if they are worried about him. Yeonjin is also worried about what Do-young and Jae-jun talked about and tries to reach him, but he is not responding to her calls or messages. She decides to check his place, but he is not there either. After several attempts, he finally picks up her call and agrees to meet with her later. Jae-jun visits Hae-sol's school and promises to protect her. He calls his lawyer and asks to meet to discuss how he can regain his rights as Hae-sol's father. The lawyer explains that he has no chance of being recognized as the father unless the couple in question gets a divorce. Jae-jun meets with Yeonjin and chokes her in anger as he confronts her about Hae-sol. Yeonjin is shocked but manages to calm him down by distracting him with sex. As Jae-jun tries to get his daughter back, Hae-jong tries to win over her future mother-in-law, but this proves to be difficult as the woman is acquainted with Dong-eun and had hoped that she would be her daughter-in-law instead of Hae-jong. Hae-jong realizes she is in trouble and asks to talk with Dong-eun. The Daddy's event in Hae-sol's class takes place, and both Do-young and Jae-jun attend. Jae-jun pretends to be there to visit Dong-eun, whom he refers to as an old high school friend. Do-young is shocked to see that Dong-eun is the teacher in question. Jae-jun's snide comments also do not help the situation. Glory, Hae-jong approaches Dong-eun and pleads with her not to interfere with her wedding plans. Dong-eun reveals that she has discovered information about Hae-jong by using her phone and orders her to report Myung-oh as missing. Meanwhile, Do-young and Jae-jun get into a confrontation when Do-young finds him watching over Hae-sol. Jae-jun reveals that he no longer wants to find Myung-oh because he has learned the reason he sent a letter, which may have led Do-young to realize that he is not Hae-sol's biological father. Dong-eun later meets Jae-jun at the school and is reminded of how he and Myung-oh sexually harassed her in the past. She warns him to stay away from Hae-sol and tells him that if he wants to protect Hae-sol, he should consider her his ally. She hands him Hye-sol's coloring, which proves that she inherited his color blindness, and leaves. Back at home, Hye-sol tells her mother about a dad event at school, and Yeonjin becomes worried when she learns that Jae-jun showed up as well. Meanwhile, Do-young meets with Hae-jong in secret and asks her about the relationship between Yeonjin and Dong-eun. Hae-jong tells him that Yeonjin severely bullied Dong-eun in high school, causing Dong-eun to drop out. She asks Do-young to tell Dong-eun that Hae-jong was the one who told him about what happened and implies that Dong-eun is betting her life on something. Later, Do-young coincidentally meets with Yeo-young at a Go match location that he built and plays a game with him. Yeo-young tells Do-young that he recently moved to town seeking revenge for someone and reveals that he is a surgeon. He reports his meeting with Do-young to Dong-eun, describing Do-young as calm and collected. Do-young goes home and finds Yeonjin waiting for him. He asks her about her relationship with Dong-eun, and Yeonjin denies any wrongdoing and asks him to trust her. She warns him not to open Pandora's box and says she will ensure their daughter's safety and keep the box closed. The next day, Yeonjin meets with Jae-jun, who asks her if she loves Do-young. She admits that she does and is not ready for a divorce. Jae-jun points out that Do-young may not accept her once he learns the truth about her. Later, Yeonjin receives a call from Police Chief Shin Young-jun, who asks her to meet with him. During the meeting, Young-jun tells her that, based on his private investigation, Dong-eun is a model citizen. Yeonjin asks about Dong-eun's mother and seems to be hoping to use her against Dong-eun. It is revealed that the police chief has men watching Dong-eun's mother. Yeo-young is also curious about Dong-eun's mother, but Dong-eun does not provide any details. The scene cuts to Yeo-young's mother visiting the killer in prison and warning him not to send any more letters taunting her son. Hae-jong eventually reports Myung-oh as missing, which annoys the gang. Sa-ra becomes angry, fearing that Hae-jong may have put her drug use on the police's radar during their investigation. She threatens to kill Hae-jong if the police start looking into her. Meanwhile, Dong-eun tells Hyun-nam to get a passport for her daughter so she can be away studying while Dong-eun carries out her plan to kill her husband. She tells Hyun-nam that she will lose her child if they go through with the plan and asks her if she wants to stop. Dong-eun later receives a call from Do-young asking her to meet. They meet and Do-young tells her that he wants to hear her side of the story first because she is the victim. Dong-eun admits that she approached him on purpose and tells him where she lives. Meanwhile, Yeonjin discovers that Dong-eun is living in an apartment right outside her house. She pays a man a large sum of money to break into the apartment and is shocked to see photos of the bully gang and people close to her on the wall. Yeonjin begins to think that she should have not only bullied Dong-eun, but killed her as well. Thanks for watching the recap of episodes 6, 7, 8 of the Glory drama. If you liked the recap of this drama, make sure to watch the recaps of other dramas. Until next time, stay safe, Otaku.